Hello, my friends. Today we're learning about Mציעא Daf Tzadik Ches. So we're going to start from the last line on Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis. Ich domi esek shvur. But before that, we're going to explain a little bit. So in the Mishnah, we had three cases. We have the mashil, that's the person who owns a cow, and we have the shoyel, who is the one who borrows a cow. And there are three cases. Case number one, that he gave the cow to the borrower half day b'sheila and half day b'schirus. The second case is they gave it 1 day b'sheila and 1 day b'schirus, and the third case is there were two cows, one b'sheila and one b'schirus. And then the mashal, the owner, says it died b'shas sheila, when it was borrowed, on the day that was borrowed, or the cow that was borrowed, and therefore now that it died, you have to pay because the shoyel is chayav b'ointzim. And the shoyel says, I don't know when or which one. So the Mishnah said that he has to pay. So we asked the kasha that l'chorah Rav Nachman holds that if Reuben comes to Shimon and says, you owe me 100 pounds, and Shimon says, I don't know, Rav Nachman says he's potter. So l'chorah, it's the same case, and it's a kasha from the Mishnah. We could see that you say chayav, it's a similar case. So we answered that the Mishnah is talking about where there is a shvur. And we're going to see now, that's what we're going to learn today, what shvur is over here, but there is a shvur involved, and because he can't make a shvur which cow it is, so when someone's chayav a shvur and he can't make a shvur because he doesn't know what happened, he has to pay. So now let's see inside. What's the case that there was a shvur over here in the Mishnah? Says like Gemara Kedurova, like Rava said, the Omar Rava, Tzadik Ches Amud Aleph, Mona li biyodcho. Reuben comes to Shimon and tells him, you owe me a money, v'alo yomi ein lecho biyodi ele 50 I owe you. V'ashar, on the other 50, ein yodea, I don't know. So he's a moide b'miktzas, because he's a moide on 50, and the other 50 he doesn't know. Mitoch she'einu yochol lishova, because he can't make a shvua that he doesn't owe the other 50, because he doesn't know. Mishalim, he needs to pay. So now in our case, in our Mishnah, what's the case? So the Gemara, mashkachas lo reisha. The reisha means the first two cases where it was one cow, half day, or 1 day, 1 day, and the seifa is two cows. The one was b'sheila, one b'schirus. So says the Gemara, mashkachas lo reisha bebeis, two cows, the seifa begimel on 3 cows. And we're going to explain. Reisha bebeis, the mashil, the owner tells the shoyel, beis poros musar telechot, I gave you 2 cows, palge, diyoyme b'sheila, palge diyoyme b'schirus. Case number 1 in the Mishnah was 2 cows, and it was half day b'sheila, half b'schirus. Inami, case number 2 in the Mishnah, chad yoyme b'sheila, 1 day was b'sheila, v'chad yoyme b'schirus. Umeisu tarbayu be'idon sheila. And the owner said they both died in the Zman of sheila, and therefore you owe me 2 cows. And the shoyel, the borrower, answers to the owner, choda in, yes, one of them, yes, be'idon sheila may say died when it was in the Zman of sheila, and I owe it to you. Therefore, there's a ido b'miktzas. Be'idoch, and the other one, lo yadano, I don't know. Be'idon sheila meisa, did it die, there's man sheila, and then I'll be chayav it to you. Be'idon schirus meisa, it died. B'shas schirus, and I'm potter, because of soiches potter for meisa. And therefore, he's a moide b'miktzas, and the mitoch she'einu yochol lishova, because he says he doesn't know, he can't make a shvur on the second cow. Mishalem, he needs to pay. And therefore, it's not kasher Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman was talking about in a case where there was no oido b'miktzas. The seifa begimon, and the seifa where there's 2 cows, it's actually where there's 3 cows. The Omalei, the mashil, tells the shoyel, gimel poros nosatelech, I gave you 3 cows. Beis b'sheila, 2 were borrowed, v'achas b'schirus, and 1 was rental. Umeisu anitarti b'sheila, and the two died, and the 2 that I gave you are the borrowing, and therefore you have to pay to me. The Omalei shoyel, the borrower, tells the mashil, in choda de sheila me. So one of them I agree there was of sheila, and therefore I need to pay it to you. Idoch, the other one, lo yadana de sheila meisa. Maybe it was the one that sheila died with the kaima, and the one that's left is the schirus he, and therefore I need to pay it to you because the sheila I'm chayav on meisa. Or maybe the schirus meisa, maybe the one that died is the schirus, v'hod the kaima, the one that's still alive, the sheila, and therefore I don't need to pay it to you because on schirus I'm not chayav on meisa. and because he's moide b'miktsas, and he can't make a shvua because he doesn't know, and therefore he has to pay in the case of the Mishnah, and there's no kasher of Nachman, as we said, because Nachman was talking about where there's no shvua. Says the Gemara, Uleromi bar Chama the Oma Dalet Shoymim, Trichim Kfir b'miktsas voido b'miktsas. So Rami bar Chama, it says in the parasha of Dalet Shoymim Kihu Zeh, and from there we learn oido b'miktsas. So the one who argues in Rami bar Chama says that that's a separate parasha. It's telling you a separate din, nothing to do with Shoymim. That they do a din of moide b'miktsas, but by Shoymim you don't need a moide b'miktsas. But Rami bar Chama says no. It's talking about the parasha of Shoymim, and a Shoym is only chayiv a shvua if there's oido b'miktsas and kfir b'miktsas. And he also, Rami bar Chama says that kedei to be chayiv shvua of moed b'miktsas, you need to be koifa. On part of it, you need to be koifa for sure. Not to say I don't know. It means to say no, I don't owe it to you. It means a proper kfira. So how allow Mishnah? How do we have a case of a shvua in a Mishnah? So we have to add another cow. Says the Gemara, Mashkachas l'reisha. The reisha, as we explained, the first two cases begimel with 3 cows. The seifa, the last case where we're talking about 2 cows, we're talking about bedalit, 4 cows. So we're going to explain. Reisha begimel, the Omalei, the Mashal tells the Shoyel, Gimel Paras Asati Lecha. I gave you 3 cows. Palged Yomi B'Sheila, all of them were half a day. B'Sheila, Palged Yomi B'Schirus. Inamio, the second case of the Mishnah, Chad Yomi B'Sheila, one day they were all lent out to you, V'chad Yomi B'Schirus, and one day they were all rented to you. Meisu Gimel Kulu Be'idan Sheila, and the Mashal tells the Shoyel, they all died. And they all died in the man of the Sheila, and therefore you owe me 3 cows. To the Mashil, he tells him, Choda, one of them lo yoed varim oilam. So we have a kfira for Rami bar Chama. The Choda in beidan Sheila mesa. So we have oidah. He agrees that he has to pay. V'idoch lo yadana. And the third one, I don't know. I beidan Sheila mesa. I beidan schirus mesa. Did it die at the time of the schirus, and therefore I don't have to pay? Or b'shah Sheila, that I do need to pay. And therefore, the mitoich sheinu yichol lishava, he can't make a shvua because he doesn't know Mishal, and that's why he needs to pay, and there's no kasha on Rav Nachman. Seifa, in the case of the Mishnah that was talking about 2 cows, we're explaining that Suma bedalet 4 cows. The Omar Lei, the Mashal tells the Shoyel, dalet paras nasati lecha, I gave you 4 cows. Gimel b'sheila, 3 of them were borrowed out to you. Choda b'schirus, and 1 of them was rented. Meisu anoch gimel b'sheila. Now 3 of them died b'sheila, and therefore you have to pay me all 3. But Omar le Shoyel, and the borrower tells the Mashil Tzadik Chesom Beis Choda, 1 of them lo oyud varim oilam, lo adam, never happened. I don't know what you're talking about, and therefore I'm koifa koilam that one. The Choda and the other one, yes, the Sheila Mesa was the one that was borrowed, and therefore I need to pay it to you, and therefore there's a moide b'miktsas. The Idoch and the other one lo yadana, I don't know this churus Mesa. Is it the one that was rented to me and he died and I'm potter, but the came and the one that's still alive, the Sheila, and I give it to you back? Or maybe the Sheila Mesa, the one that was borrowed to me died and I need to pay, but the came with the schirus, and the one that's still alive is schirus. And since he can't make a shvua because he doesn't know, so the Gemara, the mitoich sheinu yichol lishava mishal, and that's why he needs to pay. But really, if it wouldn't be a shvua, you wouldn't need to pay, because we hold like Rav Nachman. That's what Rav Nachman explained, that someone who says ein yodea, he doesn't need to pay. Going back to the Mishnah, the owner says it was a rented one, the borrowed one. The Zoyma and the Shoel says Chura, the one that was rented, and therefore I don't need to pay. So they're arguing. They both claim to know what happened. So what's the din? The Mishnah says the Soicha makes a shvua that the one that died was rented and he's potter to pay. Says the Gemara, to be chayiv a shvua, it needs to be the Reuven's claiming from Shimon something, and Shimon agrees on some of it, is moed b'miktsas, but on the same thing that Reuven's steinering. But in this case, what Reuven's steinering, the mashal, he's saying it was a she'ula. And what Shimon is admitting to, he's admitting to that it's a schura, it's a whole different cow. It's a rented cow. So what shvua? Where does a shvua come from? It's talking about the reason why he needs to make a shvua is a gilgul shvua. What does a gilgul shvua mean? That if someone's chayiv a shvua for one thing, so you could roll over the shvua to make a shvua about something else that we're arguing about, even though that the something else by itself you don't know mechuyev a shvua, but because you make already one shvua, we make you make another shvua. So what's a Gilgul over here? The Amalei, the Mashal tell the Shoyel, Ishtovali Eze Mies de Kedar Komeso. You know what? You're saying it's Schura Mesa, right? And Schura, you potter if it's Mesa Kedarka, but you need to make a Shvur that it's Schura Mesa. So please make a Shvur, not that the Schura Mesa, please make a Shvur that how it died naturally. Because you mechuyev that Shvur, to patty yourself as a Soicha. Umigu, and since the Mishtova the Kedarka Mesa, since you need to make a Shvur that died naturally, Mishtabi Nami, I'll be Megalgal on you and make another Shvur. The Schura Mesa, that's the one that was rented to you, and therefore you have to make a Shvur in the Mishnah. In the case where the mashal and the shoyl don't know which one cow died, so in the Mishnah it says Yachloiku. Says the Gemara, Homoni, who is our Mishnah? Sumchusi, Shita Sumchus, the Orma Momon Amuta Basofak Cholkin, who says when you have a problem about money and we don't know, and we're in a Suffolk, everyone's on a Suffolk, we split half, and therefore the shoyl has to pay half the value of the cow that died, or the shoyl of the Soicha. Rav Abba Bamal asked a Shaila. What's the din? Shala b'bailim. Reuven borrowed a cow from Shimon, and when he borrowed it from Shimon, Shimon helped him load on his truck. So it's called Shela b'bailim, and anything that happens to the cow, he's potter. And then Sochra then came towards the end of the time of the borrowing. Reuven tells Shimon, "Can I rent it for another 5 days?" And he says, "No problem." And he rents it off him. He pays him. Shaloi b'bailim, but when he rents it off him, Shimon was not helping Reuven doing anything, so it was not considered schirus b'bailim. Now, what did then me and Rinan do? We say sheila lechuda kaima v'schirus lechuda kaima. That there was a sheila b'bailim, and that's finished, and now there's a new rental, and that's not b'bailim, and therefore now you'll be chayev if anything happens. Or dilma, maybe schirus b'sheila meishach shaychi. There's a continuation. The schirus is just continuing the sheila. Why is that? That before that, Bashela was chayiv for Gneva Aveda if he wasn't b'bailim, obviously. And now that I'm taking it b'schirus, so it's continuing that chiyuv. And since the first chiyuv was b'bailim, so also now the schirus is b'bailim, and therefore if it dies or gets stolen or gets lost, I'm potter because it's considered schirus b'bailim because of the sheila b'bailim, because it's a continuation. That's shaila number one. Says Rowan Bar Choma, if you want to tell me schirus b'sheila meishach shaychi, that when you rent after you borrow, it's a continuation and it's considered ba'alav imoy also in the schirus. What's the din if socher b'bailim, the beginning he rented it from the bailim, with the bailim helping him, and therefore he's potter for whatever happens to the cow. And then at the end of the time of the rental, shalo b'bailim said, "Can I have it for another 5 days?" By the borrowing. Now, what's the din? Do we say she'ela b'schirus v'adar lo shaycha? Because she'ela has extra din in the chayev ba'onsim, so it's no continuation to the schirus that we started with, so it's a new transaction, and this new transaction wasn't b'bailim, and therefore you'll be chayev for anything that happened. Or dilma, maybe given the shaycha b'miktzah, since there is some chiyuvim by soicha that also apply to a shoyel, like Shia or Gneva Vaveda, lefi some shittis. We look at the whole transaction of Sheila as if it's part of the schirus, it's a continuation. And since the schirus was b'bailim, so this is also b'bailim, and it'll be potter on everything that happens to the cow because it's considered the Sheila b'bailim. That was Shaila number 2. Shaila number 3. We don't say Kevan de Shaycha b'miktzas, Keman de Shaycha b'kuludomi, that when you have a schirus at the beginning, and then a she'ela, because a she'ela adds on extra chiyuvim, it's a new transaction and it's nothing to do with the schirus. And even though the schirus was b'bailim, the she'ela is not considered b'bailim. What happens if shalo b'bailim? First he borrowed it b'bailim, and then sochor shaloi b'bailim, and then he rented it shaloi b'bailim, and then v'chodar v'shalo, and then he borrowed it again. So there's 3 transactions: she'ela b'bailim, schir shaloi b'bailim, and she'ela shaloi b'bailim. Now, do we say Oda Asya l'sheila l'duchta because it started with a sheila and it finishes with a sheila that's a borrowing? We look at it as if it's the first sheila, the first borrowing, and since the first borrowing was b'bailim, so this is also considered b'bailim, and you'll be potter. Oy dilma, no, afsekil schirus beinu beini, the schirus in between stopped the whole transaction, and therefore now that it's a new sheila, it's nothing to do with the first sheila, and it's not considered b'bailim, and therefore you'll be chayev. Shaila number 4, Sochra b'bailim. You rented it with the owner helping him. So he's pot on all chiyuvim. But then the shala, and then he borrowed it. The chava v'sochra, now he, after the borrowing, he rented it again. Now, what's the din? Mi amrin aslas chirus leduchta. Do we say the rental, it started with a rental and finished with a rental, and the shayla in between we don't care about it, and therefore it's a continuation of the first chirus, and since the first chirus was bebailim, so also the last chirus is bebailim. Or dilma afsekele she'ela beini ubeini, the shayla in between stopped it, and it's a stop in the first chirus, and therefore now that I'm soicher it again, it's a chirus sheloi bebailim, and I'll be chayav, and all chiyuvim that soicher is chayav. So the Gemara teiku tishvi Elio Anovi Taretz Ansa Kushius Viboyas, all our kashas and shailis that we have, he's going to come Be'eretz Hashem, like we say in the last nevuah. Before the Gula happens, Elio will come, maybe he's already here, and he'll answer us all our stakes that we have. As Hashem, we should all be zoichet to learn this Gemara again, we should all be zoichet to understand this Gemara, we should all be zoichet to remember this Gemara, and to be Mikayim, of course, all what we learned. Thank you very much. Have a very blessed day.